Saints fans and who that's, I'm Kyle T. Mosley here with I guess it would call this the Crescent City Connection today, because today we're having a one-on-one with Nicholas Esayian, who is the founder and CEO of Light Helmets. So why do we have Nicholas on today? We're going to tell you a little bit more. So don't forget, you can go to www.saints.media for the latest in all the New Orleans Saints news on Sports Illustrated. So Nicholas, welcome to our program today. And I just would like to get with you on a couple of items because you have a fantastic background. I was doing some reading up on you, and I know before you guys entered the partnership with Brees that you are a founder of several different companies, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
What was so interesting about you is the fact that you are a former professional race car driver and you are a volunteer first responder. So kudos to you, man.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, Kyle. Appreciate it. I was excited about having a chance to chat with you today. I have a bit of an esoteric background. You know, I went to the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, Division III school, played a little bit of football there. I worked for the Xerox Corporation, Bain Capital, and worked for the television show Cops for a little while. And that was crazy. You know, all the cutting room floor stuff they couldn't put on television, they put on VHS tapes. That's how old I am. And my wig is black, so
it's great, Nicholas. I'm right there with you. I was there watching Eric Estrada and those boys. So yeah, that was my fun stuff.
and I watch the same thing. I watch the same stuff. So it was interesting, and concurrent to that, I started racing cars in 1992, amateur, and I'd worked at an Acura dealership when I was in college selling cars. My parents said, "Hey, you should learn how to sell. Regardless of what you do, you always be presenting yourself." And that was really the only thing I could find. And Acura was a new market at the time, and I'd won a sales contest. They sent me to a driving school as a prize, and I did really well there. And then I kind of put it on the side. Maybe a couple years later, once I had gotten out of college, I went and watched a race, and I thought, "Oh my, I have to do this." It was an amateur race, but I got hooked, and I won the first 6 or 8 races. And then opportunities started to open up for me. And of course, in the beginning, you're funding this stuff yourself and you're trying to work a regular job. And there's expense. And I didn't even know how to change oil in a car, more or less, do any of this. And, at the end of my race career, there's a crew of 20 guys on the car. There's race engineers. There's a tire guy, chassis guy. You're getting money. People are coming to see you. You're on TV. But in the beginning, you're standing outside, freezing, holding an umbrella, wondering, how am I going to get home when my car gets wrecked because you drove it to the track? So things changed a lot there, and they changed in my business life too, from working for big companies to I started an infomercial company and ran that for 16 or 17 years, and we sold a lot of people different products. It was interesting. I've had an interesting path, made a lot of mistakes, done a couple of good things, tried to help some people along the way.
Yeah. Any particular products we would be familiar with that you did sell on your channel?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a book called Debt Cures. And when the economy collapsed in 2007, we wrote a book about debt. Nobody wanted to go in the bookstore back then and say, "Hey, I'm in debt up to my eyeballs," while everyone stands in line, right? So we started selling it on TV, and we hired a guy by the name of Kevin Trudeau, who's in jail now, unrelated to anything that we did.
I heard about Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to say that up front. If I hear the helicopter coming to get me, I'm going to blame you, Kyle. So we hired him, and he was a spokesperson. But I sat down on the beach in Carlsbad, and we had all different people from banks and auto finance companies, credit card companies, saying, how can people at that time? People were terrified. Interest rates were going up. They had debt. And it was, you can refinance your car loan. You can call the credit card company and have your interest rate reduced. You can pay your mortgage weekly versus monthly, and it'll save you interest over the long haul. So we put all that together. We did some infomercials, and we didn't even have the real book written yet. So we did the infomercial, and we saw there was demand, and we all did the airplane, and then we said, holy crap, what are we going to do now? We got to really write the book. So we got a ghostwriter. fulfillment, buying media, digital, all of these different things. And then we started to do different products, and it grew from there. And it was a lot of 20-hour days. I had a partner, Harvard Business School actually did a case study on us, and I'm a Armenian guy. I played football in college. I didn't get the greatest grades. I raced cars. I was divorced. I've got 2 kids. My partner was a Jewish fella. He was an attorney, and he had like 119 kids. His hobby was like writing Jewish law books, and he'd wear a trench coat even if it was 90 degrees down at the beach. He'd always bring a suitcase with pastrami sandwiches, which I loved. And people are like, who the hell are these guys? There's a guy wearing Pelican shorts, and there's another guy in a trench coat writing a book eating pastrami sandwiches. But that was a start. So Debt Cures was popular. In fact, it got spoofed on Saturday Night Live. There was another book called Free Money. Both are top 100 books of the century. And then we did a coin collection called Justice Coin. And when the SEAL team guys in San Diego got bin Laden, I had donated all my race winnings and contingency money to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, which is a wonderful charity that puts money in place for the kids that are lost, or I'm sorry, that when the father or mother's lost, Delta Force, SEALs, Rangers, the kids get to go to whatever school they want to with grants, and they have a counselor. And we met some wonderful families there. So when we did the coin, we thought, hey, let's try to make money, as we always do, but let's try to give back. So we gave 4% of the gross revenue of that to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. And, it was good stuff. Those are the 3 that worked. And in the infomercial business, for every one that you do that works, there's 5 that don't. We don't want to talk about any of those. No, we tried real estate. We did everybody, what the TRX is? It's the straps that you exercise with.
Oh yeah, I sure do.
So, and it's a great exercise product. So we thought, we'll redesign, patent around it or work around it a little bit. So we did a show with Oscar de la Hoya, and we hired Oscar, and he couldn't have been a nicer guy, cooperative. We did a great infomercial. And then Oscar got in trouble right when the infomercial was going to air, so we couldn't air it, so we lost all that money. And but stuff like that happens. When we met with Oscar after that, the first thing I said to him was, I'm like, Oscar, we can't go to Vegas anymore because you're not going to be any fun after all of this. So, but that stuff happens, and there's success and failures, and I'm sure you've experienced that. And everybody that's watching this, you just got to kind of keep going, and you have to self-assess. Am I doing the right thing? But if I'm doing the right thing and I believe in it, the people around that I trust believe in it, you got to keep going. And when we started this helmet company, we've run into some of those same challenges that really test your tenacity. I think that's a word that you used earlier when we were chatting before we got on air here.
Right. Well, through the different ventures, I've been through different ventures as well. And you have to be able to stick with it, stick to your guns, stick to your vision. And you also have to modify it from time to time. Don't get me wrong. But if you believe in something very strongly, persevere through it and push through it. All right, let's talk about Light Helmets, man. Light Helmets, you guys have partnered with Drew Brees, now retired New Orleans Saints quarterback and leader of numerous NFL records, right?
Absolutely.
You guys are down in San Diego. Did you connect with Brees there in San Diego, or was this a partnership in the works before he even decided to retire?
It's an interesting story because everyone has a network of people, and a lot of times you get stuck behind the computer and you really stop talking to people. You send emails, and when you send an email, there's no peripheral conversation. You just talk about the single topic. So some of the same SEAL team guys that I've gotten to be good friends with through the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, through that coin show that we did that they helped us with, we're friends with Drew. And I happen to also live in a neighborhood where the Chargers' former physician, Dr. Tal David, lived down the street from me. So we had some, secondhand connections with Drew, but I'd never really exercised them before. And when we started Light Helmets, we purchased the assets of a company called SG Helmets. And SG was owned by a guy by the name of Bill Simpson. and another gentleman by the name of Chip Ganassi. And Bill's no longer with us, but Bill was one of the primary innovators in the auto racing space that brought composites to race seats, Nomex fire suits, safer helmets, window nets, head and neck restraints device. And he had an 8th grade education. He was brilliant. He built up Simpson Racing. And there's an insurance commercial still with him in it where he's sitting in a chair and they're lighting him on fire and people put him out. But he changed the face of auto racing. And Chip Ganassi is a familiar name. If you're a race fan, he just sold his NASCAR team, but he also has an IndyCar and a sports car team. So after they spun up a couple of auto race technology companies, they got into the football helmet space. And we bought the assets at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And then we started to probe and see, boy, who do we know that might be able to bring us a star? And our competitors, in hardshell football, you have Riddell and Schutt and Zenith. In hockey, you may have CCM and Bauer and Reebok. In baseball, it might be Mizuno and Rawlings. And we sat and we're like, why is no one using any rock stars in this space? And I kept thinking to myself, are we going to do business the way everybody else is, or are we going to try to do it our own way? And you get a little bit nervous because these companies have been around forever. Like you've seen Riddell on the forehead of players from when I was a little kid.
Yes,
so
I was about to say as well. We use Riddell helmets. Go ahead.
You got it. So we thought, oh boy, are we going to be able to get anyone? So we started talking to people, and a little newspaper here called the Rancho Santa Fe Times or something like that did a story, and I got a call on my cell phone, and it's Rick Meyer from, he played at Notre Dame and played the Raiders and Seahawks. And he's like, I'd love to see that helmet. And so I meet Rick Meyer for coffee, and, I don't want to tell everybody, but I'm a football fan, right? So we sit down. He couldn't have been a nicer guy. He gave us some recommendations and told us, hey, this is where I think you may have some trials and tribulations, and couldn't have been nicer. We crossed paths with Mike Haynes. Mike, top 100 NFL players of all time, Super Bowl winner, Hall of Fame, one of the finest gentlemen that I've spoken with in any business. He's been in here half a dozen times and has helped give us some direction. And his son actually plays football at the same high school that my son plays at. But we had coached against each other when our kids were little, and he also gave us some direction. But some of the SEAL guys, we were out at a shooting range shooting, and they said, oh yeah, we know Drew, and I was playing golf and somebody else knew him. And so I went and I told everybody, I said, if you talk to Drew, I gave everyone one of our samples of these cool, award-winning soft helmets for flag football. And one of the team guys got to him first, and Drew liked it and, was willing to have the conversation. So Drew, which a lot of people don't know, started a company with a gentleman by the name of Chris Stewart here in San Diego, and it's called FNA. It's Football in America. And It is I guess a league or a group of leagues, 24 different leagues. Yes. And they're growing. They're going to have 48 leagues, they think, in the next 15 to 18 months. And it's flag football for kids. And it's like the gold star of flag football leagues. And there are other great leagues, don't get me wrong. But so when we talked to Drew, he was excited about it. He knows that flag football is growing. And nobody plans on having contact in flag football. That's one of the reasons you play flag football. But we all know that whether it's basketball, whether it's flag football, whether it's soccer, you still have pretty serious impacts. And kids are looking up at the ball and they collide or head to ground or head to knee injuries. And the goal in all of these sports first is to make sure that the kids participate, but they participate safely. Then you want them to learn life lessons. You want them to have fun. But the first thing, safety. So most of the flag kids that are still playing, nobody's wearing headgear or helmets. And we started to look in that space, and we had started in the hardshell football space. We during COVID, we developed this soft shell, and Virginia Tech's kind of the end all be all of companies. That's like a Consumer Reports of safety equipment. So they are independent. They test everybody's stuff. Our football helmets all got 5-star rating. That's the highest rating for them. Our soft helmets got 5-star ratings as well for soccer and flag, man. But they got the #1 rating, and nobody's ever gotten a perfect score. So when we shared that with him, he said, hey, listen, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in partnering. He's like, let's wrap it together with FNA, Drew Brees, light helmets, and let's get to work. So we did, and we did a video shoot with him about a month ago. His sons play flag. We got an opportunity to see them, and they were putting on this headgear, and he's really he's a professional on a lot of fronts, and we all know these athletes, right? People think that, hey, you go out and it's a vacation, you're playing a game and you get out, but you're constantly scrutinized. Your personal life. You can't go anywhere without being recognized. When you want to do nice things for the community, people are asking you about other things. But boy, he is the gold star standard for a spokesperson. We couldn't be prouder to have anybody than Drew Brees.
Yeah. Drew is like you say, such a professional at everything that he does. I'm very interested in what he's going to do in this next phase of his career and life. But when he started the Flag Football League in New Orleans, especially, I mean, you had kids of all ages out there running around in New Orleans, and I've seen a lot of the videos, and I couldn't be proud of what he's been able to accomplish. So taking this headgear that you guys are providing for the Flag Football League, what are some other applications, or is it just going to be constrained to football? Could it be for other field events like soccer or field hockey, lacrosse, something to that nature?
Sure. So that's a great question. So our first product was the Hardshell football helmet. And what we did with this is this helmet's made from all the materials that are used in the military helmet. So instead of plastic and steel face masks, we use what people know as Kevlar. It's called tri-weave. It's a composite. So our football helmets weigh about half what a traditional football helmet weighs, which means there's less energy in the impact when your head starts snapping around. It's just a better product. The liners from auto racing, the face mask is tubing. And we derived the flag football helmet from the tackle football helmet. So we've got tackle football from youth all the way up through Division I. And then this soft helmet is for flag football, 7-man. And maybe you could do a better job of describing the difference between the two for everyone, but also soccer. So people will be like, well, people had the ball. Like, why would anyone wear this for soccer? Well, first off, women's soccer is one of the most concussed sports in America. And it's longer neck, less neck strength, and you have a lot. And I think the girls are more aggressive than the guys, but you have head-to-head contact, head-to-ground contact. And the last thing you want to do is add a lot of weight to somebody's neck, because your neck is smaller than your wrist. And when you start snapping that thing around, that's where you get injuries as well, not only short-term, but long-term. So when we started this, we went out and we picked 6 of the best docs that we could find. The chief of staff from Scripps Hospital here in San Diego, Sean Evans. Peter Cummins wrote a book with Merrill Hodge called Brainwashed, which was kind of the counterpoint to the movie Concussion. I'd urge everyone to read that. John Schleimer, who's a neurologist here. We picked all sorts of people, pediatricians, et cetera, to develop this. But women's field hockey, the soft helmet works for. Women's lacrosse, they don't wear any helmets. Think about getting hit with that ball in the side of the head. They wear the goggles. So these headgears only weigh 5-6 ounces. I would urge people, if you don't wear ours, put one on. Ours is by far, at least scores the best, and that's not from me. It's from Virginia Tech. And these soft headgears, unlike a traditional football helmet can cost $150 up to $3,000. Most of the helmets you see on the field, you think, oh, I'm getting the same thing as the pros because it looks the same. It's not. You're not buying that $3,000 helmet. You're getting something that's, the materials are much different. But in this soft helmet space, they all cost roughly between $50 and about $120. And ours is just under $100. And for the level of protection it provides, and it doesn't add weight. And the beauty of it is it's a softer foam, so that even if I'm playing and you're playing safety and we collide, my headgear protects your head, because that cushion in between the two of us, if our heads hit, at minimum, you're going to have a big bruise or a black eye or a cut that requires some stitches. But this thing absorbs force. It's the same material that's in an auto racing helmet or our tackle football helmets. So it protects the user, but it also protects other people that are on the field.
Okay, so here's a question. I'm a layman. So if I'm hearing you correctly, instead of having a couple pounds on my head, I could have a few ounces on my head and get the same level of protection. Why hasn't the NFL been more aggressive at taking a look at your product?
So this is a hotly contested topic, especially with us. So the NFL lost a lawsuit to the Players Union roughly 10 years ago, and it was for over $1 billion. And part of the remedies of that, and I'm going to give you some general buckets, were that there was going to be a payout to players, that health insurance was going to change. They were going to try to push new technologies onto the field. And then there was going to be helmet testing and helmet ratings. And, the NFL has certainly spared no expense in pursuing that effort. But it's a combination of reasons why people have not pivoted to this technology. So take out 2020. 2020 is interesting in that there were no preseason games, right? So you have fewer games. But in 2019, the last full season we had to look at, in spite of all the rule changes during kickoffs, targeting, defenseless player, all of those differences, concussions actually were up. And the NFL's testing focuses on a specific set of tests that are done in a lab. And those tests hit the helmet in certain places. Those places are determined based on where they feel concussions are on the field. They've spent a huge amount of money in determining this particular series of tests to rate helmets. The top 5 helmets that they've rated over the last 3 or 4 years, for the most part, are the heaviest helmets that are over 5 pounds. And the bottom 5 helmets are the lightest helmets. And, we looked at that and we were a little bit puzzled because our doctors are saying, hey, the energy equation's mass times velocity. If we can reduce the mass, that's less head whip, that's less head to ground. It's less when you get hit and your head flies the other way. But lab tests are one thing and what happens on the field are something else. The NFL does not release to the players concussion per play by helmet. So they're making decisions of what helmet to wear based on what happens in the lab, not what's really happening on the field. So the NFL said to us, hey, your helmet didn't do well in this test. And we said it's because it's light, but we don't feel the test is leading to fewer concussions. With all those rule changes, there's more concussions. We're not going to play ball with you unless you release the on-field data to the players. Because we felt at some point in time in the future, there's going to be litigation where players are going to look at each other and say, why were we making decisions based on a test that are hit once? You see guys getting hit, they get 2, 3, 4 times. The head's whipping around, or the Trent Green hit. When he got hit and his head slammed back into the turf, you and I have never discussed this, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. The energy of that impact was magnified by the weight of that helmet. So you have helmets now that are 5 pounds, 5.2, 5.3 pounds. Our helmet weighs less than 3 pounds. And we didn't pull these materials out of a folder and say, let's try these. These materials, Kevlar's been used in the Apache helicopter helmet, special operations helmets. The foam that we use has been used in ballistic helmets for years. We're using Sports Star chin straps and Douglas snaps and all the best third-party stuff. But the goal here was to build a helmet that performed well, and it has. Virginia Tech has rated all of our helmets as 5-star. So we have a bit of a contentious relationship with the NFL. I'm hoping over time we can work it out. We'd love to have those players wearing our helmet. We know they'd love to, right? Because you take 2 pounds off of a guy, and for a while, guys aren't wearing thigh pads, knee pads, etc. And I think there's 2 reasons for that. Once the NFL married this test, they've got a lot of money in it. And I know over time, the NFL will continue to reevaluate because it's in their best interest to protect the players, right? But the problem is they move slow. And here we are new saying, hey, look at us. Your concussion numbers are up. We don't think your test works. And they're thinking, who the hell are these guys and these doctors? But at the same time, we've got competitors that have been making helmets the same way since I played, when fire was invented. And the shells in these helmets are plastic and the face masks are steel or titanium. They're making them look different. There's a flap on the front or there's a plate on the top. Does any of that stuff work? The jury's out. But what we'll say is that we know our stuff worked in battlefield. It's worked in aviation. It's worked in motocross. And nobody's going to a heavier helmet. They're going to lighter helmets and advanced materials. None of the competitors are going to want to make that big change. Now, NOCSI, who is the body that determines whether helmets can be used or not used. It's a yes or no. Your helmet has to go through a wide variety of tests, as is your company. Mm-hmm. They have proposed a youth standard and based on 2 studies that they did that require youth helmets to be under 3.5 pounds. We're the only one that has a helmet that's significantly under 3.5 pounds. We're under 3 for a youth helmet. So we're ahead of the game, and nobody's happy with that because, of course, you want to crush the innovator because otherwise you got to spend a bunch of money to compete with them. So, we're fighting that battle, but we're fighting that battle to make money, but we're also fighting that battle on behalf of athletes at all levels of play because weight doesn't help reduce energy and an impact. It only increases it.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking because the New Orleans Saints had a player and he came from my high school, McDonald 35 in New Orleans, Louisiana, Delvin Breaux. Okay. And Delvin, before he was able to leave high school, broke his neck due to a severe hit. And the helmet could have been at play there as well. He went on to be able to play for the Saints and also in the CFL as well before he just recently retired. So I'm just thinking he may be someone you could be able to talk to also about promoting your product. You talk to athletes, and some of the athletes are in favor of their kids getting into professional sports, especially following in their footsteps. Some of them aren't quite there yet as well because they know how violent the sport is. Do you believe if you can keep showing, starting with kids and working your way up through, let's say, Pop Warner, junior high schools to the colleges like you've done with the University of Miami, do you think that could be able to be the right approach for you guys to gain the recognition for the safety aspect of what you're doing?
We do. And, you're hired now as the marketing guy here because you got it before.
Thank you. I need an extra job. My wife said I don't make enough money. Come on. So thank you, Nicholas.
It's not as hot here in San Diego as it is in Houston. So we got a spot for you here.
Oh, man. I'll be right there. Just tell me.
I'll be at the airport waiting for you. So, when you look at other sports, right, there's a ladder system to all of this. And there is for football and hockey and everything else. So, you can build a brand 2 ways. You can build a brand from the top down. So let's say, for instance, if we went and we talked to a ballistic helmet company that makes military helmets and everybody knows the name of the company, they make helmets for fighter jets and everything else. If we started with them and we put that badge on along with light, we're coming from the top down. And people are like, oh my goodness, they're making helmets for weapon systems that cost hundreds of millions of dollars. They protect America's, finest soldiers, airmen and sailors, etc. Or you can start from the bottom up. I think, our goal is to do both. But when you go out and we know there's 8 million flag football players, almost nobody's wearing a headgear. Some of the 7-man kids are wearing headgear, and that's a faster, more violent game.
Yeah.
But there are states like Texas and New Jersey that are requiring it for 7-man, but now insurance companies are starting to require it for these younger kids. So our goal is to go out, meet with parents. Other than maybe NFL or D1 equipment managers, the most educated people about safety are parents because they want their kids to play. The kids want to play. And as a parent, the thing you can give your kid is a wonderful life, but they have to be safe first. So our goal is to be able to provide these parents with the information and putting these helmets on these young kids. But when they go from playing flag football and they end up in a high school, are they going to want to wear a 5.2 pound helmet during 2-a-days or a 2.5 pound helmet, or a 3-pound helmet during 2-a-days? So we feel that we can build this brand from the bottom up and then also from the top down, and it'll take us longer. And, and we talked about this a little bit before, these helmet companies focus on a specific space and they stay in their lane. we feel these materials can permeate all of the different sports, from football, flag football, hockey, baseball. We're even going to get into the construction helmet business eventually, but lacrosse. These materials have protected, people on the battlefield, and we know that per Virginia Tech, we're onto something. We're a new company, and our first football helmets were 5-star helmets. Our first flag football helmet and soccer helmet, we're the #1 ever tested with a perfect score of 0.00. So we're a small company. I think we are going to force some of the bigger companies to take notice. Of course, competition is what's built this country. When we all used to have an A carrier and a B carrier, your cellular phone bill was hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and the coverage was terrible. But over time, that competition, the phones got smaller, they got better, right? And I think that's the beauty of what sports is in the United States, is it teaches kids that competition is good. You not only are working with people when you're in a huddle, or when you're on a soccer team or hockey team or whatever it is, you're working with these kids. They're all different. Their parents are different. Their family structure is different. The color of their skin's different. Their sexual identity is different. It's all different. But when it's 3rd and 8 and you walk up to the line and there's that 1 second before the ball snap, everybody is on one team. And the other thing is that you have to respect the game and the competition. And that the one thing that bothers me about sports right now is a lot of times guys aren't respecting the game. You're mocking somebody else, whatever. I remember watching Deion Sanders. And when I first watched Deion, I'm like, man, that guy's having too much fun. He's almost like rubbing in the other team's face, but he never did. And when you go back and look at him, he was having fun. He wasn't dancing on somebody's logo or throwing the ball in somebody's face. He just loved the game. And when you look at him now, I think he's at Jackson State. He's a coach.
Yeah, coach.
His messages, I'm telling you, if you want to go and get a positive message every day, going on his Instagram, and the message that he puts out, it's a uniting message. And that's what sports is about. And we want to contribute to that. My worry, and this is something that Drew shared in one of the interviews, and we'll put it out on social media, is that with all the concerns about concussions or injuries in football and other things, that kids aren't going to play. And, we see in the media every day divisive messages. When you're on a football field, nobody cares. It's a place where you unite, and we want to help foster that. And I think it's important not only for, again, I'm here to make money, but we want to do it in a positive way, and we feel we can have an impact. I mean, it's impacted my kids. I've got 3 or 4 docs, and you wouldn't think a doctor would let their kid play tackle football. Peter Cummings, a forensic neurologist, his son wears a light helmet. I've got Dr. Paul Gaspar, Dr. David Strait. Their kids wear a light helmet, and they recommend it to others. But the game is such a great game. All the games are. And I'm partial to football because I think small things add to the next. Somebody makes the right block, you have 11 people. They all have to act in concert. You have successful play. You get a first down. You score. You win that game. You get into the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. I, like you, I'm a sports fan. When I watch a Super Bowl, to me, it's not a game. It's everybody that's ever played the game has contributed to that game, because even if you played at a D3 college, even if you played in only Pop Warner or a scout team someplace, you brought these guys to the cream of the crop. And when we watch that game, to me, that's what's exciting. It's everyone working together, and this is like the pinnacle of it. And, we want to be a part of sports at all levels for all different kids, and we want to help provide that protection. And it's been too long since somebody's been an innovator and brought new materials here, and we're going to do that, and we'll take some bullets in that course. But I think the parents and I think people eventually will come around to the fact that, hey, you know what? This stuff doesn't cost that much more to make and build the way we're building it. It's a change, but we need that change because we need sports. Think about the last year with COVID. Youth suicide rates, depression, all of these different things. The kids have suffered, and it's heartbreaking because I had a senior in high school who played hockey, didn't end up playing. I had a freshman who played partial spring season of football, and I never made a friend playing a video game. I mean, I had the old Atari, with one button on the side.
Yeah, that's me, man.
When you come out to San Diego, we're playing, right? Because
yes.
if I play
that's
game,
how I started.
in the new games, I mean, I get killed right away. Like I respawn, killed immediately, right?
Yeah.
Even I raced cars professionally for 27 years. If I get in, I finished second at the Long Beach Grand Prix. I'm like dead last. I can't even make it around the track in video game. But you don't meet the people that know Drew Brees. You don't meet somebody that's a Navy SEAL. You can learn from all of these people. And I think that the equipment is what enables parents with a clear conscience to let their kids to participate. And we need to continue to improve that. If we improve cell phones, we've improved automobiles, we've improved body armor, we've improved all these different things. We got to improve the equipment where we know there's going to be contact and is the future with these kids playing. They need the sports, but they also need to be kept safe.
Well, you touched on so many points. So I have a family member that's autistic. I have a family member, friends who have children with epilepsy. I have, and I'm just thinking, and I like to market as well, if you haven't noticed, Nicholas. So you have these other avenues where kid-friendly type of products, those products where they're afraid their kids may fall, hit their heads, and hurt themselves. And people don't think that that's important, but it's highly important to a parent, like you said. And I've heard the concerns being raised about the cost of certain products is just astronomical, where they're not able to afford certain things. Are these some of the possibilities as well for your products at Light Helmets?
Oh, they are definitively. In some of the categories that you outlined, there are standards for some of those helmets, and in other cases, there's not. But one of the things that I think is important is, if you've got someone that's autistic, you've got somebody that's epileptic, you have somebody that has seizures for other reasons. One of my good friends, his son, I think, is 17 years old, and he's got epilepsy, and he's had several seizures over the last couple of months. And as he goes through his treatment, one of the things that's happening, though, is he's hit his head on a desk, he's banged his head on this, he's banged his head on that. And he's a 17-year-old kid. He's a confident kid. He's going to work through it. And I know the science will get him in the right place along with his parents' care and guidance. But when you're a young kid and you got to wear a helmet and you wear the old school helmet that looks silly, that also erodes your confidence.
Yes.
It's got an issue is no less of a kid. He has no less joy. He's got no less love. He's got no less future than anyone else, but he's got an issue. So you know what? Let's make him look cool. Let's let him wear the same helmet that a kid playing flag football that Drew Brees endorses. So that's on our path. And I think that, we look forward to that, and we're growing. So we're small, but that's definitively a place where this technology has a home. And again, all of this stuff is about the kids. When you think about somebody, if you have to wear that, you may as well wear something that's cool. And now that kid confidence is higher, and he's going to work through it. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. I cover some of the HBCU sports for Sports Illustrated as well. So I've been in some of those press conferences with Deion Sanders this past year. I've heard, like you talk about the positive message. Deion has always been positive, whether it's on and off the football field.
I agree.
But you talked about Division III schools, and I know that HBCU schools have had a problem finding some of the resources and some of them to be able to help make it safer for their players on the field. Have you approached like a Deion Sanders or some of the smaller schools that are out there and try to market your equipment to them?
We're just starting that outreach now. So when we took the company over at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, we had the technology from SG Helmets, which was the prior company, purchased those assets. It took us about 8 months to design the first hardshell helmets. And we got them to market. It was August of 2019. And we sold all of the first lot of helmets. And then, of course, we ran into COVID. So, in California, we couldn't really even come into the office. So we were iced. So now we're going out, we're starting that outreach that you're talking about, because we can make these helmets available to a variety of schools, and it goes back to cost again. There are football helmets that cost $2,000-$3,000. You can't even buy them on our competitors' websites. But our helmets, these LS1 and the soon-to-be LS2 hardshell football helmets, they range for a youth helmet from about $350 up to about $600 for a adult, or what we call a varsity helmet. But we can break those down into payments. There's different ways to make it more affordable for people. And of course, when schools are buying larger volumes of these, like we think of someone like, and I'm just using this as an example, but take an Alabama or a Clemson or an Auburn. How many kids at a school like that are playing intramural football, right? Just flag football. They're all cruising around. Nobody's got any headgear on. But when you think about that, one closed head injury costs so much money to treat, not even to mention that the pain for that individual, his friends, his family, time off school, insurance, all of that stuff. We want to make these things available to everyone. So we're working on that. And one of the things, which is our hope with Drew, is that putting him as the front person to this, I probably talked too much during this interview, but I like doing this stuff. I like getting out there and talking about kids. I like going out there and talking about sports. I like going and talking about competition. But Drew takes things to a whole different level because he's gone and done it. I've raced cars professionally for 27 years, sports cars, but the NFL is really the pinnacle of sports in America. And Drew, with the records, he's broken, and his accomplishments. Brett Favre was always my favorite quarterback, and Walter Payton was my favorite player of all time. But you look at Drew's accomplishments, and he surpassed all of those. And in today's age, he's wonderful. And I think that he'll help us get these helmets in those schools like a Jackson State, in schools that are smaller, a D2 or a D3 school that are wearing 5-year-old helmets that are plastic that weigh 5 pounds. Because, even if you take out the safety aspect of it, I think there's 73 players on a NCAA team. If you peel 2 pounds off 73 guys, I went to a state undergrad school, but it's 140 to 150 pounds. You roll out 3 45-pound weight plates and a 25, and you tell guys that you're going to be carrying this around in Miami heat, humidity. Nobody wants to do that, right? So you're talking about athletic performance as well. And the hardshell football helmet that we designed actually is resizable. So if somebody buys it for their kid, when you send it in to be refurbished and they're wearing a small, we can switch it to a medium. Nobody else can do it. And if you're a school that's got 200 helmets, instead of having too many smalls and mediums sitting on the shelf, you just send them in, we resize them. It's a small fee, and we ship them back. So there's some advantages from an economic perspective too.
Man, that's pretty neat, because then you save money. You don't have to repurchase more items. You could just send in, do the resizing, save a little cost there. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's something that's unique, different, able to be branded. Awesome. I love it. All right, let's kind of wrap it up for you, Nick. I appreciate you taking time to spend with me. We talked about the different applications. We talked about how the product is made. We talked about the future of the product as well. What do you want the people to know about the product that we haven't discussed?
I think that that's a great question. I think the biggest thing is that, innovation in this space has been rare. We go back to the NFL. They spend a lot of money on different technologies and head health tech challenges and things like that, but the technology has not necessarily gotten onto the field. And there was a company called Visus, and Visus came out with some unique helmets. They had some definitive advantages and disadvantages. The company's gone through some hardship and changes, and I think it's resurfaced as part of another company. But the majority of technologies that have been funded by the NFL have never gotten on the field. And there's not any new football helmet companies. There's no new hockey helmet companies. There's no new baseball helmet companies. So when a new company brings something to market and all the competitors are beating up on them because they're new, that's part of competition. We're big boys and girls, and we need to promote our wares properly. But the barriers to entry, whether it's insurance, whether it's money, whether it's spokespeople, whether it's knowledge in terms of research and development, it's very difficult to get into this space. So I would urge parents, I'd urge athletic directors, trainers, athletes, coaches to not just read, brochures, but to look into the science behind it. There are many studies that show that lighter weight equipment matters. It improves safety. And that's not coming from me. That's coming from, well-known universities, the military, and other places. And our physicians back that up. But also, people may not trust politicians, but they have trusted the military, and that, the United States military has been at the tip of the spear for decades. And one of the reasons it goes beyond training, and it goes beyond that we have some of the bravest men and women that volunteer, but they also have some of the best equipment. And that equipment is funded by all of us. And we've all spent tax money to develop that stuff. And it's sat on the shelf and has never been brought to the sports field. And we are doing that. So if you're a parent, I would urge you to look at what we have to offer. Look at the science, watch the videos on our website, go out and research light helmets, look at materials. Your son or daughter is going to go through a whole process of different sports and teams as they grow up and they develop. You want them wearing the best equipment that's available, whether that's ours or someone else's. So don't just buy a brand. Go out, do the research, look at the history, listen to the doctors, look at the studies, and then make your decision.
Okay, awesome. Look, it's www.lighthelmets.com, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right. Guys, this has been a great talk with Nick Esayian, who is the CEO of Light Helmets. But the one thing I would like to applaud you guys at is how you guys are, like you say, staying on the forefront of technology and also being able to give it to the kids while they have the opportunity to use it. Most of the times, kids and families, like you say, when they use it, they kind of grow with it, familiar with it, and able to help promote it and grow it as well for you. Drew Brees and you guys are starting the partnership. You guys are going to provide them with how many helmets anticipated the first year?
So they have these 24 leagues, and they're recommending it but not requiring it for all of their players. So we're starting to get parents ordering already for the fall season. We are going out to the fields, and we're picking athletes out that are standouts, and we're sponsoring them. So we're giving them a SS1 headgear, and we're giving them a shirt, and then we're going to give them exposure on our website. And then in exchange for that, really, our helmets are out on the field. So if you are an FNA parent or player, keep an eye out for the light representative at your field. And, they'll be walking around and sponsoring different athletes, and that'll get us out in front. And, you can go to the website right now and purchase, whether it's a hardshell helmet or a softshell helmet today. Depending on where you live, you can play flag football all year round. If you're playing 7-man, soccer goalies, it's one of the most concussed positions. Nobody even thinks about it. I think soccer goalies are crazy. I mean, the post, the ball, somebody's foot, their knee, any different way that you can get schwacked in the head. And, it's a change to wear some type of headgear. But if you're going to do it, protect yourself. Missing a game and leaving your team with, and not that the person that backs you up isn't a great player, but you're obviously starting for a reason. You don't want to be sitting over on the side watching. So, but if you're going to wear headgear, wear the best. So, go to the website and pick up an SS1 or an LS1 right now, which is the hardshell, and we'd be happy to get you set up.
Awesome. Nick, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Guys, don't forget, go to www.lighthelmets.com for the best helmets on the market, and also look at it for the different applications that these guys can be able to provide for you and your family. All right. Thank you, Nick. You take care.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
You too.
Happy 4th, everyone.